Good evening, it's Jo Durand. Hey Josh, Jo Durand from Avalon by Nature, and you're welcome to another of Jo Avalon's Cuppa chats. And tonight with me, Josh has already finished his coffee, his cuppa. Just hold up your cup. That's it.
Look, a cup.
It's lovely to see you again, Josh. And this is Josh Maxwell. I've known Josh for many years, but particularly through Avalon by Nature at the entrance. And onwards, watching you in all your various escapades, and particularly with your theatre company, Jopooka Productions.
Correct, that's the one. Yeah, no.
Okay. Cool, that's good. I was reading correctly.
No, there's a fun story about. I'll tell you about why it's called Jopooka.
Good.
There's a whole story about that. Yeah. So I can tell you now.
Yeah, so you could tell me now.
I guess this is live. Wow, God, this is terrible. No, so it's actually called, it's spelt Jopuka, but it's pronounced Jopooka with an A after the J because I'm dyslexic.
Oh.
And so when I filled out the ASIC form, the way my handwriting is, the A was registered as an O. And so ASIC legally registered our business name as Jopooka Production. So that's why my actual company name is a typo, which I think is really, really, really funny.
So what's it meant to be? JAP, is it?
Japuka. So it was
Jopooka.
It was back in the MySpace days.
Yep.
It was. I'm holding a cup because I feel like I need to now.
You may put it down if it is empty and irrelevant.
The cup is empty and irrelevant.
Jopooka, MySpace.
Yeah, MySpace. Yeah, so MySpace was back when that was a thing.
Yeah.
There was like a, what's your porn star name and what's your such and such a name, and one of them was what was your Star Wars name.
Oh.
And so Jopooka came out of that. I used it for a program at school, and then it just kind of stuck as a brand. And then when I legally registered for ASIC, that's when the spelling change came, and it just kind of stuck like that.
Yeah.
And interestingly, in the last few years, we've been asked, as our profile's been getting bigger across the nation, people have been asking if it's Indigenous, which is something I never considered. So I actually, I have spoken to the land council. Look, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean that. They were very fine about it. I said, it is just this silly name I came up with when I was like, I think I was 15 when the name came about. So that's
it. Who knows? At 15, you don't know that you're meant to research these things if you are at all. But why does it have an Aboriginal sound to it? Like, who would it be connected to, do you think?
So I think it's just the Indigenous languages. Like, a lot of Indigenous languages are very vowel driven.
True.
So in particular, the local Dark and Young language has quite a few, although it's quite a broken language, and it's based on a few different languages, and I don't want to misquote. I don't fully understand how the language works, but I have been trying to pick up bits and pieces of it.
Yeah.
And I've got the dictionary, which was made by a local elder and professor.
Oh, cool.
So we refer back to that for when we're doing Indigenous stuff for the company. But yeah, it was something that I had never considered. Although I came from quite a politically left family, and we were always big about Indigenous rights.
Yeah.
It's just something you don't. It crosses people's mind much more now, but it didn't back in 2009. 2009 doesn't know, 2009. When I first came up with the name.
As a Star Wars character.
Yeah, and what pisses I think all of my friends off is that I don't like Star Wars. I've never. I love Harry Potter. I love Doctor Who. Can't get into Star Wars.
So well, I'm disappointed too.
Oh, look, I'm so sorry. My cousins have threats like...
Sorry,
my
not
cousins
sorry.
My cousins have threatened to like gaff tape me to a chair and like prick my eyes open so that I watch it. But I'm like, that makes me want to do it less.
Yeah, no, that's not cool. We don't want you to hate it.
Yeah. Well, anyway, but yeah, no, that's I just realised I'm touching my face so much. Like, currently not a time to be touching your face, but
I know, but it's funny. The air is actually a bit dry, and I'm noticing it as well. And especially when I start recording, it's just like when you get your hands in the washing up liquid, and then you go, crap, my head's itching, my eyes is running, all that sort of stuff.
I think I've washed my hands successfully, like, I don't know, I'm washing my hands like 40 times a day. I'm barely going out at the moment, but with it going on out, out there, but like I just like I touched something, I must wash my hands. I'm like, we don't have
That's it. Oh my goodness. So Japuka production. So what sort of things are you putting on? I know there's a hiatus at the moment. There is for all of us. But what sort of things have you got in the pipeline, especially from when we can get things happening again?
Yeah. So for those of your viewers who don't know, we're a youth arts company. So we do predominantly Australian theatre works for young people aged 12 to 26, but we've kind of in the world we're in on the Central Coast, we've kind of gone 16 to 30 just because there's a lot for young people, like, you know, juniors at the other end, and then over 30 there's lots of stuff you can do. So it's our 4th birthday on Saturday, whenever this comes out, Saturday 28th. Yeah, so we're 4 years since we had our first audition. We've produced in that time, I think it's 23 unique shows and events. So like a lot of, I keep telling my friends, going, this is why I haven't seen anybody, because I literally just don't stop.
23 productions, gosh.
Yeah. And like some of those have toured across, you know, we tour a lot into fringe festivals. We've got a home base in Tuggerah called the Launchpad, and you know, so we're big about giving young people not only a voice but agency to use their voice. So like giving them they go, hey, we've got this idea with the short play. It's like, cool, great. Well, let's workshop it. Let's, you know, see if we can find some funding for you. And we've had, I think so far we've had 6 new shows created and launched at the company. So from queer theatre to Indigenous theatre, touring work. So yeah, we're really proud of what we've done. But at the moment we've got 2 original works. One's called, no, you're gonna probably have to bleep this. I'll just Cockhead is the name of the work. I'll explain why it's called that in a second.
I'm not sure you need to.
No. And the other one's called Bubble, which is about a young artist who's got a disability living during an apocalypse. So that was awkwardly timed. And then we've got a whole slate of works at the end of the year, a show about the climate change movement, a production of 2 Weeks the Queen, which you saw back many years ago.
Yes.
Yeah, so we're a new version of that.
Oh, wow.
But again, yeah.
Is it like a grown-up version or a rewrite?
It's the same script, but it's much more maturely directed. Like as an artist, I was really happy with what I created, but I've looked at it. There's those bits I love, and there's other bits I'd love to work with more. So I'm just going to readjust myself. So I'm sitting a little bit straighter because my back will be terrible by the end of this hiatus. But yeah, so Cockhead will be the first show we get back on when we're finally open again. Like us, like every arts organisation and a lot of organisations across the country, we're just shut at the moment with Corona. So Cockhead's actually about a group of 3 teenagers who their entire schooling career has been about screwing things up, like ruining assemblies and causing bomb scares. And so their final hurrah is ruining the formal.
Oh no. Which is every head teacher's nightmare.
Yeah, and the head teacher in this particular script is insane. And it's written by a lovely young artist called Tululuk Eden. She's a brilliant writer, and she wrote some stuff for us last year, and we said, hey, we'd love to see a full work from you. We found some funding to pay her to do it. And the reason it's called Cockhead, there was a different title, but she sort of went, oh, can I call it that one? Yes, you can. We're a youth company. You can say what you like here. So there's a rooster in the show, and I won't explain too much in case everyone wants to come and see it, but there's a rooster called, and they refer to it as Cockhead.
Okay.
So yeah, that's it's brilliant. Bubble is by Declan Green, who was actually in 2 Weeks the Queen that you saw all those years ago.
Yeah.
He's a good friend of mine and a really great writer as well. And we performed that last year, and we've got a touring production again on hold. And he did ask for permission to rewrite it a little bit, and I was like, go for your life. He wants to now set it during a pandemic, and I'm like, yes, you may, just go nuts.
That's it. There's nothing like current material, is there?
Yeah. Well, although I did say we should probably avoid pandemic storylines for like the next 10 years, because I think the world's been dealing with the whole, well, particularly the youth arts, because the world's been feeling like it's getting darker.
Yeah.
Young people have been responding to that and like setting a lot of works in like an apocalyptic world or a post-apocalyptic world. And now that we're kind of heading in what feels like that direction in a real, very real sense, and very in your face and in your living room type sense, people are going, oh, maybe we shouldn't be talking about that on stage for a while type thing.
Well, I guess, you see theatre and cinema as an escape from your real life, and why you might ask yourself, why do I want to see another version of what I'm living every day anyway?
Yeah, so that's what we're going to be. We're sort of like, we've got a few other quite coming of age shows on the slate at the moment. We do have one about the climate show called Very Happy Children with speak English. Very Happy Children with Bright and Wonderful Futures, which is based on a tweet that Trump put out about Greta Thunberg.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all about the climate strikers, and it's interviews with them, and it's it's set against the bushfire crisis. So we've been working on that one with a company in Adelaide. So that's hopefully on in November, but again, we're not sure. While we're on hiatus, we're releasing some digital content. Like we've got a couple of audio dramas coming out and some filmed versions of old shows that we had in the archives, which we've got permission to release.
So when you say an audio drama, is that like the old radio plays?
Yeah, so it's basically
cool. That's awesome.
So we're probably going to we've got one called Because There Was Fire, which was the first show we ever commissioned. And it's a really great play. It went Newcastle, Sydney, Adelaide, and here. It won a couple of awards. Really great play about youth boredom and like that feeling a lot of young people have to go and travel the outback, and then what young people experience when they get out there and go, oh my God, there's nothing out here except some dust. So it's about young people getting bored and a yearning for more in life. So we're doing that comes out on Saturday. So and we're doing it via like a pay what you can model. So people can, I think people can pay $5, $10 or $15, or they can just make their own amount up. So if they want to make a donation to the company and hear the audio, but it's been professionally recorded. Like we're recording, it's got a soundtrack, it's got sound effects, it's got all of those things. The original touring cast have come back and recorded it for us, plus a whole group of other actors. So when we toured, it was just the two actors for an hour, but now and those actors would perform all of the other parts as well as the two mains. So what we've done, we've actually cast all of the other speaking roles with other local performers. So yeah, we've got a bit like that, and then obviously we're doing some podcasty stuff, and we'll just keep content going to sort of just keep ourselves sane, I think.
Absolutely. And, the more we can listen and watch, the more we can then get excited about it going live again. So what about your podcast? Because I did see that you were launching one very soon.
Yeah. So I love podcasts. I listen to them all the time. It's when I'm working on them in my ears. And I really love those podcasts, which are just people chatting, like similar to what we're doing now. And so I've hosted one, like co-host one, which we intermittently record called This Is Democracy Manifest, which is about me and my friend talking about world politics and local politics and, pulling crap about it.
Yep.
But I've just launched a new one today, actually, called Been Dead, Done That.
Oh, yes.
So it's basically my own podcast, and it's just going to be like every Monday, half an hour to 45 minutes of just me talking crap about my life and telling stories about my life, or responding to the news, or like interviewing people in my life about their lives, and just pretty much whatever I feel like putting in this podcast.
And where do we find that? Where would we find that?
So it's on, if you search up Been Dead, Done That on Facebook, you'll come across the page, or you search up me, Josh or Maxwell, you'll find a link. It will eventually be on all of the podcast stores. At the moment, it'll just be on SoundCloud, but then there's like a whole streaming thing you've got to do, and it's a 2-week process with Apple, and Apple's currently mostly shut down, so it could take weeks. So
Facebook is
at the moment,
best place to look for it.
Facebook is the best place. It's sort of that, it's become the new landing page for pretty much everything. So
it has, isn't it?
Most times you type in something into Google and you find their Facebook page before you find their website these days. So, So yeah, that comes out. So my first episode is recorded from isolation or self-quarantine. Is it self-isolation or self-quarantine? I'm not sure
No, it's
what the term.
self-isolation. I think if you're actually sick or you're waiting to be tested, you're self-quarantining.
Yeah.
But if you're just doing what you're doing and what we all ought to be doing, it's self-isolation.
Yeah. Which is what I'm doing. So it'll be, the first episode includes my two best friends, Chris and Jamie, as well as interviews with my parents, because there's going to be a lot about my insane childhood. And just how I've turned into, the whole point of the podcast is a kind of about being a little bit less scripted with my life, because I have political ambitions. I've always found it hard to be much more myself. So it's still a structured way of doing things, but it's a way in which I can have a format to talk about my past and to interview people and be a little bit more, and be honest, like, going, some of my favorite things are dinosaurs and green cordial, but I also run this youth arts company and I've got this political and, like, acknowledging that I'm not your run-of-the-mill 20-something political hopeful. Like, it's
Yes,
I have
yes.
like there's a whole world behind that, and
Yes, and once I asked my friend to get me the Gummy Bears tarot.
Oh yeah, no, and look, and I would love to have you on my show as well. So I love that I have the Gummy Bear tarot, and like that's a thing I don't talk about a lot. Is I don't talk a lot about my spirituality and my belief system. Like I'm in the Labor Party, and there's different things we can talk about. We don't talk about it. We do talk about it. And it's also just never been relevant to my story, that to a lot of people that I have probably not more religious beliefs. I have spiritual beliefs, and if people look at my desk, they'll see there's crystals on my desk, and I often wear crystal necklaces. And if you've ever been at my house, there's a bookshelf full of psychic books and tarot cards, and it's a lot of them from your shop.
Yes, yes, they are. Thank you.
Every time you had a new deck, I wanted them.
My perfect customer.
But I'm also like I'm such, because I'm a designer by trade. Like that's what I started in the arts industry as a designer. So all of my decks, like I'm not one of those people who, and I've got we've got friends and acquaintances and colleagues who do have large collections of decks, and they just collect them because that's what they like. But for me, it's always the visual and the story behind those decks. So like my favorite deck is the Wild Unknown, and that's such a gorgeous visual deck, and I think that's probably speaks about my perfect design aesthetic, that mixture of color and clear lines, and then like but almost like rough art and stuff. So so I really love that kind of stuff. But then I love like clear black and white stuff, or just really lovely visual stuff. Or the other side of me, which is that quite childlike stuff, is the things like this one, which I found today, which is the zombie tarot.
Oh, it's upside down.
Was it? There we go.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, that's better. That's good. Have you played with that one yet?
What was that one? Yeah, I used to play with it heaps, but like some of the cards are fantastic. So like we've got the King of Wands. That's probably important. I'll read into why that's come up first. But, like it's just like zombies doing things.
Oh my goodness!
And the box looks like bullet casings.
Packaging is half the thing, isn't it?
And so like I just love the people who, I think the people who came out with this one, and I want to get it right. Gar Productions Co. from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. They've got another one called the Housewives Tarot, which is designed like a recipe book.
Oh right.
And I think they've recently released a new one, which I need to go and find. But so like I'm really into that kind of aesthetic-y type stuff.
Yes.
And
actually, I think I've got in here the kitchen tarot.
Yeah, I think it's something like that. So yeah, it's what I'm looking forward to, what I like doing. So yeah, it's and then I have my, like I was showing you before we started recording, my massive bowl of crystals, which is all my like ones I've picked up along the way, like at markets or your store, or I've had friends give to me, and then my then I've got ones like I've bought specifically for my office, or I've bought for surgeries, and which are all, you know, there's parts of my crystal collection scattered across the country. You know, there's even one at my dad's house in Adelaide. Like it's, you know, there's ones there that I know I've left there for protection for him and also for me, and, you know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I've, you know, that's another reason the podcast is there, to talk about that kind of stuff, but also talk about, you know, the insane stories that happened to me when I was a kid, and the moving around a lot, and you know, my mum's coming out, and all of that kind of stuff that, you know, you don't get. I'd always thought I'd write a book called Been Dead Done That. That's why I called the podcast Been Dead Done That. But I'm very easily distracted.
It's much easier to talk than it is to write. Well, you could do a memoir, which could be around, you could do a series of memoirs around, you know, different aspects of your life, you know, kind of like have a been there, a been dead, done that series 1.
Well, that was kind of the idea with, like, so when I was thinking about doing it as a book, the reason I called it Been Dead Done That was because it was sort of the 3 elements of my life. So there's my personal life, which is very much dictated by the fact I have a heart condition, I've had heart surgery. Then there's my political life, where I've been the subject of many death threats, and which is, you know, joys of being in the spotlight and having 2 mums and being very open, very opinionated, and in the press. And then there's my arts world, where a lot of the works I've ever directed, whether they be comedy or tragedy or dramas, there's always some element of death in them. So yeah, so I just thought it was always going to be split into like 3 volumes, and I actually do have a draft of a chapter somewhere called Teapots and Tarot Cards, which is about my collections. And actually, I think you and the shop is mentioned in there somewhere about finding that kind of, you know, because I think, you know, I was quite young when I started coming to the shops. I
think you were, yeah.
17, 18.
17, yeah. I remember meeting you briefly, and then you were heading off to Adelaide to do some set designing, and then you sort of breezed back in, and then in your big coat, and then you took off again, and then you were back. So it's like,
yeah. And then I think, you know, you know, so those, you know, early years of, you know, discovery, like I think, although it's interesting, I don't think I ever had a reading at your store, which is odd. Like I spent so much time there, but I did actually. I did with Peter.
Yes, you did. Yes. That's right.
And who is one of those readers who, you know, you just, and all of the readers who I trust have all come or read at your store. And it's interesting because I've been wanting recently to kind of, you know, touch base again with Peter, because there was some stuff that came up in that reading that has come to sort of fruition, and that I'd love to touch base. But again, he's the busiest man on earth, so getting in to get a reading from him right now is like trying to find a needle in a haystack.
Yes, yes. And he was talking about that the other day, actually. He's got a backlog of about 5 months, I think. So
so
you could send him an email.
Yeah, I'll send an email. It's like, cool, when this is all over, can you schedule me? Like, I want to get up to Queensland and have a holiday at some point, so maybe I'll try and touch base with him when all of this chaos is over. You know, I'll get back up there, and you know, but you know, there's some really, you know, unique stuff, and you know, I've got lots of friends who disagree with me, and I've got lots of friends who have different beliefs. I've got 2 of my best friends are either atheist or agnostic, and then one of them is a devout Catholic. So yeah, really interesting, diverse mix of beliefs around me, which is kind of cool. But yeah, that's the spiritual side of me, and and the podcast, like I said, will be, and look, you know, I might do book reviews. I've told some of my friends they can come on the show and just roast me for, you know, 25 minutes. So
and you can pretend you're Charlie Sheen or something.
Yeah, the one thing I'm really looking forward to at the moment, I've just if you have anyone has ever had the chance to use the website Fiverr, it's like a gig website where you can just basically pay people to do what they do for really cheap amounts of money, or if they're very good, a lot of money. So I found an Australian songwriter who's writing me a theme song for $8. So one of 2 things that's going to happen. It's either going to be the best thing I've ever heard, or it's going to be trash, and I cannot wait.
Oh God.
So that's like
I
just,
don't know
and
which
that's,
one I want for you.
look, I'm down, and I think I'm not going to listen to it until, like, I know I have to approve the lyrics because he's going to have those to me tomorrow morning.
Yep. Yep.
I've told him, no, I don't want to listen to it until I play it for the show. So the first show I'm recording on Sunday night, I'm sort of doing, I'm doing it basically fresh. I'm just going, hey, this is what this is going to be. Talk to a few people, and then cut it together and release it on Monday, and then it will become more structured and there as things go on.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
But yes, so it'll be interesting to see what that is and what the hell this podcast turns into. Like, I've got so many people interested already.
Good.
So it should be quite interesting to see where it goes and what it becomes.
I think that's a great idea, because I think some things can be, it helps for some things to be really structured, but I think something creative like that needs to have just a wee bit of structure, but not so much that it kills the creativity of it. Yeah. I'll tell you a podcast I've really been enjoying is Julie Gillard's A Podcast of One's Own. And I've listened to every one, and I've even downloaded a few, and I listen to them in the car again and again. And I mean, I didn't really get to listen to much of Julie Gillard when she was in government. But I really enjoy the measured way that she talks, and she's really thoughtful about how she delivers what she's thinking and saying, and she's a funny lady as well, and I just love listening to the way that she responds to some of her, the women that she has on the show with her. And I just really, really enjoying it. You're listening to it as well, are you? Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think the thing is, like, those conversational podcasts are the ones I really love. So I love her podcast. Also,
and I like the fact that she's got a fun fact at the end, and I'm just sort of wishing now I'd done that for you.
Yeah, right. You got
fun
time
fact.
to do it while I talk about my life. But I love her work. I listen to. I find her podcasts are almost the perfect length for my flight to Adelaide. So I've listened to a lot of her stuff on a plane. So I listened on the way back from Adelaide from the Fringe this year. I listened to the episode with Hillary Clinton, which I found was fascinating.
That was really good. Yes.
But I also love David Tennant from Doctor Who has a podcast.
Does he?
Yeah. So he's only done 13 episodes so far. I hope he does come back to it. But it's called David Tennant Does a Podcast with ... And there's like Whoopi Goldberg and Olivia Colman, Ian McKellar. There's some really amazing people on the show. I do like Dax Shepard's Armchair Expert, which is Dax Shepard, who was on Parenthood and a whole bunch of American stuff. He does an episode every week, so there's hundreds of them, but I've only listened to ones of people who I know.
Yes.
Yeah, and really quite fascinating. And then what's cool about his podcast is he does the show with Ellen or Whoopi Goldberg or can't even Mae Whitman, all those kind of people that he's worked with in the past. But then he does like a 30-minute like fact check at the end, where he and his assistant like fact check all of the crap they talked about, which I think is really cool.
That's hysterical. It's like talking about them behind their back.
Yeah.
Now that they're gone, I'm going to go and find out all this crap that they talked about. That's funny.
Yeah. So, and then I also like the Tripod, and there's a few there's also a few theatre ones, like there's like Theatre People and the On Book podcast, which is basically a fully improvised musical podcast where they'll just be talking to another musical theatre improv artist, and then someone will say something, and then suddenly someone will start playing the piano and people will start talking and singing, and they'll make up an entire story for an hour. So I have no idea what my podcast is going to turn into,
but it's inspired by lots of different ones.
Yeah, so I'm totally for having my friends who are musical theatre artists to come and play, and I've got a few connections in the industry who are quite big names who have said, yeah, we'll come and do an episode with you. So It's going to be kind of fun. So It'll be a nice in isolation for a while. Like it would just be like me on the phone. And so, but then obviously I'll get to the point where I take a portable recorder to people, or I'll, invite people into the office and do sort of, some more structured stuff. So
yeah, I was just you read my mind. I was just going to say, how are you recording that? Are you doing it in the office? But yeah, by phone for now.
Yeah. So
cool.
My best mate Chris, I currently have on Lendrum. He has a thing called a Rodecaster Pro, which is Rode, the audio company, have literally just made a podcasting system, and they kind of just went, what would podcasters like? All of these features, and they made the product.
My goodness.
It's one of the two inventions in my industry where I've gone, these people have gone, there is a clear hole in the industry. We are going to make a perfect product. The other one's a thing called QLab, which is like a digital launching system, which is like, you can launch sound cues and lighting cues all from the one system. And it's pretty much now just the industry standard, and no one has made nearly any similar products because it's so perfect. So yeah, like I also love those kind of things as well. We go, cool, you've made a thing that's perfect. Great, let's use it.
Yeah, that's it. Oh, cool. Wow, what else do you want to talk about?
I don't know.
I don't know. What would we? Creating and living.
We've talked so much. I don't know. You've got a new shop. I'd love to hear about this, because I was very sad when the entrance shop closed down, because I had so many lunches there, and I often would just like walk and going, we've got lunch, and just sit down and not leave for 3 hours.
That's right. And it just doesn't have the same feel when you're in a shopping centre and go, we've got lunch in the food court over there.
Yeah. I do remember I remember one particular incident at your shop, where we were there. I don't know. I think it was one of those slower days in the entrance between holidays, and there was definitely me and you and Kathleen. I'm not sure if Nasab or anyone else was there, or there was you had a whole crew who just like come and go.
Yes, I did.
But we were sitting there having lunch, and this sales guy came in,
yes.
and like he was trying to sell you these magnets that attached them to the ceiling. We were all
I remember that.
You were being so polite, and I'm just like, tell the guy to go away. And then what's the thing is, you bought some. Like,
I know that the irony was that when I thought about it, I thought, oh, for the love of God, I could use those in the gazebo. I bought some from him.
It's like you went from wanting this guy to leave to him being there, and then he just kept trying to sell you other things. And I was just like, this is phenomenal. Like, and then about this issue, like I also remember there was one time where I don't know. You must have like a crystal sales rep come in or something,
right?
And it's where I got my most prized possession crystal. I remember it was the one with. It's the I don't know if you remember the crystal I bought for my heart surgery.
Vaguely, yep.
So it was like this, I don't know, it's like this smoky quartz. It's got a few like quite unique cracks inside of it. And
right.
I remember, I don't think you were going to buy it. And I don't know why I was there. And I just like something about me when that's the one I need to get me through this.
Yes.
Yes. And I think I just said, I don't care what you pay. I'll pay whatever it is plus your commission on top.
Yes.
And you can't. I just remember you went, okay, good, and you just put it in my hand, and then I don't remember what I paid for it, but I know I did pay for it. I hope I did.
You did. We're talking. I have no memory of you not paying for it, so therefore you did pay
good.
for it.
Yeah. So I remember.
Yes.
There's a few of those like key, like those possessions I still have that I, like the gummy bear tarot, which you got me for my 21st.
Yeah.
And like that deck, and then I was trying to think the other day of what decks came from your shop, but like I just can't remember now. Like there's a few I know for like friends of mine gave me, going, oh, you like tarot cards? I'm like, yeah, but not that one.
Oh no.
But not a bad way. Like it's just like friends who have gone, like they've gone to bookshop, like secondhand shops, and they've just found a tarot card, and like so it's the mage. What's the one that everyone has a copy of?
The Rider Waite.
Everyone plays that one. So I've got like 3 of those. I'm just like, oh, thanks. I definitely don't have this.
Nice.
Thought the count. Definitely thought the counts. But then there's like other ones that I know I got from your shop, or you I think there was one in particular that came from like a Blue Mountains artist. And it's in like a sewn pouch.
Oh yes, that's the Bonefire Tarot.
That one. And I remember
Yes.
I think you just said, you showed me you showed me something of it,
Yep.
and you said the word, "This comes from Australia," and I went, "Here's my credit card."
That's right. Well, it was funny that you talk about that. That's Gabby Angus West, and she was actually Taree area, and she's now in Newcastle, which is very exciting.
Oh,
But she's designing a new deck. And I was only thinking about it earlier, just before we got started. I was thinking, oh, I must tell you. And I don't know why I was thinking that, but I must tell you that Gabby's doing a new deck. And
awesome. That's just what I need, more money.
well, it's not out for a little while, but she's got a little Facebook group dedicated to it. So I'll join you onto that one if you like, and you can watch its intermittent progress like the rest of us.
I remember for a while that I wanted to do a tarot card, but I wanted to be like, there was this amazing series.
6 figures or something, wasn't it?
No, it was even simpler than that. I didn't realize at the time, back because it was, you know, when I was much younger and didn't fully understand the concept of like intellectual property as I do now, being an artist. There's this amazing like stationary bric-a-brac type thing called "This Is My Blank."
Right.
And it's basically, this is my notebook, and it's just a black cover with white text, and it's, this is my pen you stole, you know, there's a whole range of them. There's like stubby holders and bags, and I wanted to basically just make a deck which was like, this is a tarot deck, and it just literally had the names of every card, and I figured it would be the cheapest way to make like a lot of money. And then I was like, oh no, I can't do that because that's plagiarism.
Only if they've already made one.
Yeah, but so there's and it's interesting because like my collecting of tarot cards and crystals stopped when you closed, and there's a weird correlation between those two factors.
I'm sorry.
But I do pay. No, it's okay. I did buy my runes from you.
Yes.
I'm missing 2 apparently, because I know that they kind of fell into a box, and for like 2 years I keep finding them everywhere. Like, you know, I'd open a drawer, like there's like 3 rooms. I'm like, why are you there? So yeah,
and you've kind of gathered them together now, and you now know that you're missing 2.
I think there's 2 missing. But I know, like, I've seen 2 random floating around, and I know I've never in my sorting gone, that's something I just need to throw away. But yeah, like I bought random crystals at, you know, other shops around, but you know, I think, you know, there's a connection-y thing where you kind of go, okay, that's the source for that thing. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, finding a good pair of shoes. You find a good
that's it.
So yeah, like it's one of those things, whereas like, you know, similar to me with books, for example, like if I'm getting secondhand books, I'll generally go to the secondhand bookshop in Adelaide, or I'll go to the secondhand bookshop in Newcastle. Like there's always those places you go and you just go, this is where I feel comfortable. Like there's an energy about things type thing.
Yes.
You know, so yeah, I think there's something to be said about that. So, you know, as you know, you're sitting in your new place. So look, my collection is probably going to grow rapidly, and once we're out of quarantine.
That's it, because you know it's not designed as a retail space, but it's definitely a showroom space, and I do want to have an open day where people can come, of course, and chill out and have a couple of somethings and celebrate my opening of my new workspace. And also there's the intention is to have workshop space as well. So
cool.
yes, cool. That's why I've sort of, you know, splashed out and organised bigger space. So potentially workshop space for, you know, 2 trestle tables. So that's about 8 to 10, maybe 12 if you squeeze them in, people. Or, you know, if there's a desire, then we could get, you know, 15 people in here for a mediumship night, you know, something like that. Bit of room to move things around, to do something a bit different. Yeah.
And I think that's something interesting. I'd be really glad to see like that kind of having that connection of a place where I can go for that kind of stuff. Because I think I think it's interesting because there was a weird kind of, you closed around the time Japuka took over my life.
Yes.
So I never had that time to go and reestablish a connection with another with another place like that. So it was kind of a case of, you know, I'd occasionally see John or Nasaba or Kathleen in the shops, or, you know, I'd pop around and see them at, you know, at some point, but I never really had that kind of energy, or like that sort of, I don't know, not even a drive, but it never factored, the time was never able to be factored in, because I could never go, I'm going to that central spot that has readers, that has that. And I know that's not what you have now, but at least you might have mediumship nights type thing, you know. So, you know, that's the, you know, it's good to know.
In the near future, that will happen again.
Yeah, in the near future, whenever the hell we're out of whatever the hell this country is.
That's right. Whatever that near future time frame looks like, I don't know. I'm not putting a number on it.
Although I did just see a news update, so I'm just going to quickly check that while we're live talking, because apparently there's something come out of the National Cabinet. So I'm hoping to shut down the country, because, you know, we need to be shut down. Here we go. ABC, what have you got for me? Nothing apparently. No,
not yet. All right.
Just generic. Do what you likes. Just don't go near people. Although it's interesting, I think we were talking before we recorded, for the first time in like 10 days, I went to the shops because we needed stuff and I couldn't explain what I needed. But I was like, okay, well, it's like 5 o'clock it's going to be quiet and I can avoid people, and I only need to touch the things I need to touch, and I can disinfect them.
Yes.
But it's like, you walk into Westfield, like these draconian signs saying you must stay this far away from people, and there's hand sanitizer everywhere, and like it's people are like actually avoiding each other. It's like, wow, people have finally understand the concept of personal space.
I know, right?
That's what we needed. We needed a pandemic.
That's it. People don't feel the need to walk into me anymore. That's it.
Yeah. But it's interesting. I'm baffled by the things that are missing in the shops. Like, I know that, you know, as much as people say don't panic buy, but, you know, when you've got people, you're telling people to only go out once a week for shopping, or have a 2-week supply, things are going to dissipate very quickly in products before they restock. But I'm loving what's missing in the shops. Like, obviously toilet paper has been gone for weeks.
Yes.
Long life milk substitutes like soy, perfectly fine. As someone who's lactose intolerant, loving that.
Well, lactose intolerant was gone there for a little bit too, because I was thinking, crap, I have to drink normal milk again.
I know. But there's like, you know, coffee's gone, tea's gone.
Oh.
This was like when I was there tonight. There was a bit of like infuser teas. But it's really interesting that even in a crisis, people don't want to spend money. It's like pasta was gone, unless you wanted to buy like the $40 pack handmade dried pastas. You're like, cool. No, still no one wants to do that. Then there was also like, because my parents are pretty much vegan, with a bit of like dairy and egg product mixed in, and I was for most of last year. But it's really fascinating. We've been finding it really easy to find food, because even in an apocalypse, people don't want to eat vegan substitutes of food.
That's it. That is true. I have noticed that the chicken's gone, the mince is gone, the sausages are gone, the faux bacon's still there.
Yeah, which is just great. Yeah, like it's just, and then like really oddly specific things like I've gone like I know I did just as a joke. I put on Facebook, you know, what in the apocalypse would you want to grab as much of, because you don't know how long it's gonna last. And mine was Milky Bar white chocolate, and I think there is in my wardrobe, just for shits and giggles, there's like 27 blocks, because I just went to just cleared them out.
Oh my goodness! How did you get out the door with that? It was before the 2 items per person came in, was it?
Yeah. So but it's also like odd, like, you know, we were there tonight, and like, so my sisters are obsessed with like those packets, you know, single serve pre-made pasta things like the carbonaras and stuff.
Oh yes.
And so pasta in general and rice in general is, you know, limited to 2 per transaction, but all of those pre-made things are not.
Oh.
So we went, okay, well, we're not going to be coming back to the shop for 2 weeks. So we bought like, you know, 20 of them, because my sisters like literally eat them for lunch. That's what they do.
Yeah.
And like, you got these weird looks, and then we'd be like, if someone looked at it, it's like, oh, buying for a family of 12 type thing, like we'd have to, like, if we felt like we were having to justify why we were buying something. Like apparently so many stories coming out on Twitter and on Facebook of people going, I went to buy 2 cans of tomatoes and I got yelled at. I'm like, just maybe let's calm down a little bit. Like,
that's how many cans of tomatoes you buy. You buy 2 tins so that you use one for the dinner tonight and you've got a spare for the next night if you suddenly decide on a menu change. But the thing is, I don't understand, Josh. I mean, what you're saying is that people are shopping every day. Well, I regularly shop once a week. We usually do a weekly shop and we get what we need for the week. And if that's several of something, then that's normal. But at the moment, we're finding that we're not able to get what we want in that weekly shop. So now having to go more often, probably spend more money and exposing ourselves potentially 3 to 4 times more often.
Yeah, I think what's interesting is, like, so for our family, we used to be like monthly shoppers.
Wow.
We were that organized with our life, but then when the company really took off in my life, I'm not as home as much. So, shopping, we do a weekly shop and then we, grab little bits as we needed.
Yeah.
Of course, having 3 people in the family who were considered at risk with this virus, we decided that we would, we were tracking it from back in January. So when the directive came out, should you need to have a 2-week supply of, the basic stuff, and we went out and did that. So we were pretty well stocked up. And then when things started getting a bit more serious here, we then went and did what we called the good snack shop. So we went and got, make sure we had, things that we weren't going to be living like, like we're on rations type thing, and we've done a couple of those things where we've just kind of gone, but we've done a lot less of, we've now been doing more weekly shops, but yeah, it's because we've got all that stuff at home. But yeah, there's those people. And then I think about those people, like, if you've got a family of 6 or more at home, 2 things of milk are not going to last more than a day or 2. And like you're saying, people are going to have to go back to the shop more often. So whereas I get if they're trying to curb panic buying and people stockpiling, it's like, well, actually, what you're actually doing is maybe dragging parents out or families out more often to feed more people. Like, I've got, for example, my aunt, she's got 4 children, and one of her children who has a medical condition that requires to have a really strict diet. And she's been finding it hard to actually find the products she needs to feed all of her family. So, I get that frustrating point of the panic buying. I think that the whole toilet paper meme is an insane thing about group theory and the fact that, monkey do type thing. Like, why does every park have a lock on a bin? And someone said, oh, because Canada doesn't want the raccoons. I'm going, well, we don't have raccoons, so why is there locks on our bins?
We've got bin chickens.
There's things like, so, it's like those things you see someone do something, so you go, oh, well, I should be able to do it. It's like how fads take off. Remember, so yeah, but so it's, and toilet paper missing in the shops just makes more dramatic photos than the milk aisle being empty type thing.
Well, look, I was talking to this fella yesterday at the shops, and he was saying to me that he went, he cracked up because we went towards muffin break, and that's where the food court at Lake Haven is. And he came back because he remembered there was something he was going to tell me, but he couldn't remember the name of it. And so he remembered by the time he got down there and came back and told me and said, I had to tell you also that they've taken the chairs away from the food court. So you can't actually sit down in the food court. I wonder why they didn't just take a few chairs away. And it's because everyone will just grab the chairs that are there and sit in a huddle anyway. So you've got to take the whole lot away.
Yeah, well, it's interesting, and that's, I guess, a big thing about, that what's going on out there. It's like kind of that thing where you're just kind of going, I personally think my sector has already been screwed and we will be screwed for the next 6 months. Why not just shut everything down for 30 days, get the curve back under control, and then ease out of level 4? Like, where, and like the things like, a friend of mine had to cancel her wedding yesterday because, they've brought out that, you can't have more than 5 people at a wedding in any circumstances, or 10 people at a funeral, but you can have a boot camp of 10 people, and you can go, you can cram 100 people into Kmart. And like, there's just like all of these measures just contradict themselves. And, you know, I love the concept that, I love that hairdressers are still open. That's one of my favorite ones.
I don't think anybody can work out what that's about.
Yeah. And then, like, you know, I did love the Prime Minister last night butchering the term bar. You know, it's just, like he said, it's BARRE, BARRRE. I'm like, oh my God, if you're gonna come out and lead a country in a crisis,
at least you have to pronounce what you're talking about.
Yeah, and like it's also, you know, I think I tweeted out last night going, whatever think tank pickled up Scott Morrison needs to be shot. You know, the daggy dad character doesn't work in a crisis. Like,
No.
I feel like I was talking to a bunch of my gaybe friends, who are both like, who've got two mums or two dads. And I said to my gaybe friends who have got two dads going, is this what it feels like having a dad lecture you when you're in trouble and you've done nothing wrong? Like, is this what, like, I feel like every press conference we're just being lectured by a middle-aged white guy about how bad we've been. I'm going, okay, come on, mate. You went to Hawaii during a crisis. Let's calm down.
Yeah, that's it.
There was a fantastic one. I think I put up on my Facebook. I'm not sure if you saw it. It was about, you know, Prime Minister gets angry at people for going to the beach during a crisis with a picture of him in Hawaii.
Yeah.
It's just like, that didn't age well.
No. No.
So yeah, it's a fascinating time we've found ourselves in. I don't think anyone truly believed we could get here. Like, you know, I think Hollywood's been like, oh yeah, great, let's do pandemic films, and they was like, oh no, you shouldn't have, like, because, and I think also, I think someone said something today online, and it was something like, I can't remember what it was, but it was basically like, oh, I remember it was the commissioner, the pandemic commissioner, who's going to be helping like industries, like going, okay, well that factory's now defunct, so let's put them, get their workers, you know, making masks and stuff, which is great, which is, you know, it's a wartime type thing.
Yes.
But he's from the mining industry.
Yes.
And then someone going, this is a terrible idea, and I went, I finally understand how pandemic films get so bad. I'm just like, just the people in charge make dumb choices. So, you know, who knows? We could all be living off the land in 10 years, but who knows? Let's hope.
Let's go. It's just a shift, and we'll get there, and we'll see you on the other side, all right?
Exactly.
Oh, gosh. Have you got rain coming down? I've got rain bucketing down out here.
No, not yet,
No?
which is probably, you're in Cardiff, so it'll probably come down probably the next 20, 30 minutes.
Yeah.
It'll be my way.
Yeah.
Although I do love that we had like a massive storm cell over us today, which, you know, we're in Berkeleyville, so that just happened. And I put out a thing out on Facebook going, we interrupt your regular apocalypse to bring you a breaking apocalypse.
Oh, that's what that was about, right?
Yeah.
Because it wasn't raining at home when I saw that. Yeah.
Oh, it was like there was a bolt of lightning like a few houses down. Like, it was massive.
Oh, we did have
like,
cracks of thunder earlier this afternoon. Yeah. Yeah.
It was like this massive storm cell. It lasted for like 4 minutes.
I think they call that a squall.
Yeah, but this particular strip of Berkeleyville where I live is referred to as Tornado Alley by insurance companies.
Oh. Because
we have an insanely high number of, like, where there's like all of, you know, these suburbs that have insane amounts of weather events. Like, a lot of them are like in Northern Territory, and, you know, a lot of them for like things like monsoons and dust storms and stuff like that. But Berkeleyville, for some reason, there's something about the geography and the location. I don't know what it is, science. We just have
the inhabitants.
Yeah, maybe it's just me.
A Josh-centered storm cell.
That does sound like most of my life.
Hey, that's your next podcast title.
Yeah.
The Josh-centered storm cell. Yeah. Look out.
I am the eye of the storm. Yeah, it's, you know, it's, yeah, we just have so many storms in this street. I don't know if it's something to do with the mountains, the way the mountains come, I don't know, the valley, I don't know. It's something, but like, our insurance is higher than some of our like some of the other Berkeleyville residents because of where we live.
Wow.
There you go.
Wow. There you go. Well, on that note, on the note of the Josh-centered storm cell, we should call it a night.
Yeah, because it is quite late, and I apparently have some form of potato bake waiting for me because, you know, we had to make things up.
Absolutely, and I believe I've got spaghetti and meatballs at home, so that's a bit exciting. We haven't had that for a while, so. And I can't hear you anymore because of the storm.
Okay, there you go. Well, hope the family's well.
Thank you. Same with yours. Thanks so
I'll
much.
Talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks for joining us, Josh. See you next time.
Bye.